Yo, welcome back to another video. Let's get right into it. Yo, it's your boy Corey the man. Got the new setup, bro. Familiar setup. New to y'all. Um, we about ready to get into it. Let's get into it. We got this first video right here. This is, I don't know, start off with something motivational. This is, what really happens when you ignore women with proof. 10 minutes. We'll see what this is all about.
Ngopi bareng ala cafe. Bisa kapan aja? Di mana aja?
This is what happens when you really ignore a woman. Let me ask you something. Yeah, I just was wondering, why do you never like any of my pictures? Doesn't matter the reason, I'm just curious. Yes, that was a real DM from a real IG model with over 100,000 followers getting thousands of likes on her pictures, and yet out of all the thirsty simp men who like her pictures, she noticed one person, me, who wasn't. Now, I'm not saying you're gonna have 9s and 10s IG models kind of chasing after your validation. However, if you learn to ignore women the right way, I promise you, the way women treat you will be totally different. Now, I've seen these YouTube videos talking about the psychology of ignoring a woman, why you should ignore women. And I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions behind the term ignore. So let's talk about what ignore actually means, because it's not just you ignoring a woman and her total existence. You only ignore certain types of women, but first you have to understand what it means. Ignore does not mean not pursuing a woman who is showing interest. Whenever you have a woman who is clearly showing interest within you, obviously guys, do not ignore her. I feel like that's where these YouTube videos get wrong, and a lot of guys are getting confused on what ignore means. Whenever you have a woman who is trying to make herself available to you, clearly showing interest, you ignoring her is actually just gonna lower attraction overall. So don't do that. Number two, it does not mean ignoring a woman who doesn't even like you. Guys, just because you ignore a woman who already doesn't like you, that isn't gonna make her magically like you. The truth is, she just doesn't like you. So whether or not you show her attention or ignore her, it literally doesn't matter. I feel like a lot of guys think ignoring is some sort of strategy in order to gain a woman's interest who never showed them any interest in the first place. It doesn't work that way. And lastly, ignore does not mean focusing on yourself. So many guys use this as a cope. Oh, I'm ignoring women, I'm focusing on myself. But the truth is, you just have no women who are genuinely attracted or interested in you. So you lie to yourself and say that I'm ignoring women. You're not ignoring women because there are no women to ignore. You are lying to yourself. So stop using that as a cope. Now, what does ignoring actually mean? It means that you attract your attention and validation to women who don't deserve it. Yet. I say yet because over time they could earn your attention and validation. However, for the most part, usually they don't. And this is especially true with women you have never met yet. And super true with women you will never meet. Think of the IG model who you're consistently liking their pictures time and time again, when me and you both know you will never meet them a day in your life. Most of you guys are not new to female nature, but if you are, validation and attention to women is their sole energy source. It gives them a really big sense of fulfillment, even towards guys they're not necessarily that into. That's why we see them posting on Instagram, showing off their ass, trying to bait as much attention from the simps as much as possible. And then the really smart ones will go a step further and actually retract money and financial resources alongside with the attention from men who they never see any sort of potential or attraction towards. There's a saying that the guy who she's actually smashing isn't even in her comments, isn't even in her likes, in some cases doesn't even follow her. I know for myself, for example, a lot of girls I've been with the past few years, I don't follow them on Instagram. I don't like their pictures, but I see a ton of guys who do. I just think to myself like, wow, if only they knew how important their validation and attention was, and how if they started valuing it more, they could overall gain more power with women. But most guys in this modern society actually don't care. You take a look at TikTok and Instagram videos and pictures, go in the comments, you'll see 10 guys saying the same exact thing. You're so gorgeous, you're so beautiful. I swear at this point in time, it's like watching literal robots. So if you know that validation and attention is super important to women, what happens when you actually retract it? Well, the truth is, as long as they find you, in a sense, somewhat attractive and or potentially attracted to you, then they start to chase it. That's why in a lot of cases, you should allow a woman to earn your validation, because they tend to work harder for it and they start to chase it. Whenever you give it out easily and freely, it gives them overall nothing to chase. Going back to my example, that's why she actually noticed that I wasn't liking her pictures out of all the people who do like her pictures, who she clearly doesn't care about, right? She cares about mine. And then from there, she started slowly chasing it. Now, women will start to chase it in different ways. It isn't always like a message calling you out on why you're not validating her, or it could be even contacting you more. It could be giving you validation in hopes of getting some in return. There are a lot of different strategies and ways women will do it subconsciously. And in very strategic women, they'll actually even bait you for more of your validation. So they won't try to do these strategies to kind of get you to do it back. They'll more so kind of bait you into eventually doing it. Maybe showing some ass pictures on Instagram, maybe even purposely posting things on their story, knowing that it'll probably either trigger you or force you to say something. And that's where, if you're a strong man, you got to stay true to your boundaries and still not give in. Now, let's also remember, what do women like? Women like a man that doesn't need them. So whenever you kind of retract your validation and attention to a woman who hasn't deserved it, you are signaling to her that you are in abundance and overall you don't need her. You're showing non-neededness. Overall, that is an attractive quality in every single man, versus the opposite. Whenever you're giving it out a lot and freely, it signals the complete opposite, right? Neediness, it signals that she's potentially better than you, and overall that is repulsive. And whenever you put a woman in a position to earn your attention and validation, they overall tend to respect it more and respect you more because they had to work for it. Listen, guys.
If you are living in Indonesia and looking for a remote job but simply don't have any experience, join.
Guys, and I want you to remember this quote: whatever that is given out easily is never respected. I'll say it again. Whatever is given out easily is never respected. So with that being said, you need to make her earn it and work for it throughout time. That way she respects you more. So we understand the psychology of ignoring, why it's attractive, and why a lot of women tend to chase men who are attracted, especially if they're attracted to them. But how do you actually ignore? How do you actually put this into practice? Well, there are 3 pillars in which we're going to talk about: social media, text, and in person. For social media, my favorite strategy above all is to mute their stories and don't like or comment on their pics. Basically, do not engage anything with them, guys. You can easily do this just by going to the stories, hiding it, muting it, and then from there, not engaging with it. And she'll start to notice too, you guys probably do this also with a girl you like potentially, is that you check the story views, like who's watching. And you even just watching their story is a sense of validation, right? So even with girls who I'm dating long-term or short-term, doesn't matter, I always mute their stories, because I don't want to be that guy who views their stories like immediately 10, 15, 5 minutes later after they posted it, and they'd be like, oh yeah, he's still watching me. Like, it gives them a sense of validation that I would rather they not have. So you just simply hide their stories. You don't gotta go as far as I do in regards to not commenting or even liking, but to the minimum, I do feel you should at least hide their stories. You know what I notice about guys is that they always get left on red. However, most men have trouble leaving women on red, but I can tell you firsthand that there is so much power leaving a woman on red who isn't complying by your standards or rules, who isn't showing a lot of investment. Honestly, the slightest inconvenience for me, I lead them on red. And there's so much power in it because women are not used to being left on red. It's honestly one of the most powerful things you can do to show abundance and non-neediness, and how you don't have to sleep with them, right? There's a lot of power in regards to not having to sleep with a woman. And whenever you just leave her on red for just one-word answers, or maybe let's say you want to go out on a date at night. This actually happened to me before. That's why I'm giving this example, by the way. But let's say you want to go out on a night date, like at 8 p.m. or whatever. And she says, oh, I don't go out at night. I prefer evenings. Inconvenience, left on red. And you know what happens whenever you leave a woman on red? Not all the time, but in some cases, they'll actually trap back and double message you and maybe either comply or just kind of check in with you and see what's going on after a few weeks, especially if they're actually really highly attracted towards you. Now, if you're not a high value guy or if you're not in abundance, then this is going to be a very hard strategy to do. But I promise you, just like how they leave you on red, start leaving these women on red. And then eventually, as more men start to leave them on red, they'll probably start to understand, I should probably change my behavior and or I should probably comply based on the standards of this man who I'm trying to date or trying to get to know. Because the reason why women act this way on a majority basis is because they never had a guy put them in their place. So whenever a lot of men start putting them in their place, naturally they will be forced to comply or either be single. Now, lastly, in person, what you want to do is not stare, not act super thirsty. For example, let's say you're in the gym, you see a girl with a fatty. Do not stare at her. Do not look in the mirror, just making weird eye contact. You come off as a creep. Honestly, in a lot of cases, I'll pass by attractive women all the time. I keep my eyes straight forward. I might do a little glance. I might peek my eyes to the side for a split second, but for the most part, I'm looking straight forward, right? I see you all the time in the gym. It's not a big deal to me. I'm used to being around attractive women. I'm not gonna gawk at you. If I wanna speak to you, that's a whole different strategy, right? And in regards to conversation, basically the best way is to not over-validate off bat. Right? That's usually taught in regards to good code approaching standards, is to not come off with, oh, you're beautiful, or I just thought you were so pretty, you know, stuff like that you tend to want to avoid. So basically don't over validate with your speech, but definitely don't do it with your eyes. Now, a part of learning how to ignore women, you must also learn female nature. That's why in this video, I tell you the top 10 things every guy should know about female nature. Go ahead and watch that next.
All right, thank y'all.